Yeah.
Spotlight with Shadow, a Canadian dad who's got his finger on the pulse of global entertainment and sports. Each episode features unfiltered conversations with everyday creatives, musicians, wrestlers, filmmakers, and more from every corner of the globe. No fluff, just raw, real stories. This is Spotlight with Shadow, presented by Off the Top Media.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Spotlight with Shadow. I am Shadow. Tonight, I am joined by arguably one of the craziest motherfuckers on the scene of deathmatch wrestling. He is hardcore. How are you doing, my guy?
Oh, a little broken, a little battered, a little bruised, but here we are. Good to be here.
I mean, first and foremost, I need to shout out Canadian Deathmatch. They hooked me and you up here to have a conversation. Make sure you guys check out their content. They got a lot of shit coming, including a Crazy 8 tournament, which Hardcore will be in. When he heals up, of course.
We'll be in and winning.
I just want to see people get beat up.
Oh, you're going to see a lot of people get beat up. 7 other people, actually.
That being said, I need to dive into a little bit of your mind and go back in time.
Yes, let's go.
I want to know a little about Little Hardcore.
Oh, how little are we talking here?
Whatever age you feel comfortable starting from.
Okay. Oh, man. I'm from literally a tiny ass town in New York called Amsterdam. There's 19,000 people, maybe. I am from the 80s. I'm old as fuck. I just turned 40. I have been a wrestling lover my whole life. I love horror movies. I love, growing up, I played a lot of sports and shit. But, I come from a broken home. Which probably led to getting into all the crazy stuff, and but also pointed me in the right direction of finding cool outlets and stuff. So I got to grow up a crazy way, but it was a way that led me to get to here. So that was kind of cool. Nothing insane happened when I was a kid, though. You know what I mean?
Well, something had to have to set you up on this path.
No. You know what happened? Mick Foley happened. That's what happened. I discovered the Kawasaki Dream Deathmatch tournament. That's what happened.
So, are you a traditional wrestler as well, or just straight up?
Oh no, I can. Don't tell anybody, but I can wrestle. It's just I very much love the Ultraviolence. That's my favorite thing. It's it would be much more convenient if I wrestled a lot more. I call them regular matches because I live in New York and deathmatch is illegal in New York. So all of my matches I have to travel out of state for. So I'm really just kind of dropping the ball here and just, making life more difficult for myself and, my manager and my friends and stuff like that. But it's a lot more fun. It's a different crowd when there's deathmatch as opposed to just a regular wrestling match. Regular wrestling match is fun. Don't get me wrong. I like to hoot and holler and be a fan, but damn, there's nothing like that rush,
I don't know, unfortunately. I watched it. I mean, I guess in a sense I do know but I'm going back about 20 years at this point. I did the backyard wrestling stuff.
It counts.
And I was the guy that got thrown off everything and anything through burning whatever.
Yeah.
That was my ass,
I don't know why I didn't mention that obviously, I backyard wrestled forever growing up, but that's, that always led to, everyone getting, breaking off and getting trained and becoming older. And now all my friends are independent wrestlers, and it's very cool.
Speaking of your friends that are independent wrestlers, you are involved in a stable of sorts, a faction. I had a guest on recently.
Oh, yes. So I saw
that Kyle.
My dear friend, that Kyle. Yes. Kyle and I are both in a lovely little ragtag group of friends called Total Fucking Chaos. Formed by our fearless leader, the outsider, Will Carroll, formerly of XPW fame and such. It's me. It's that Kyle. We got Chuck Stein from Detroit. Maria, I'm sorry. I feel like I always say your last name wrong. Maria Belmont from Canada also. I apologize if I butchered that, Maria. My apologies. We got Tuco Montes out in California. We got D-Beat Cooper and Avon Axel in Texas. And you never know who Will's gonna snag next. He's a busy little bee, that guy. He travels around, and no one assumes he's doing business when he's just walking around with his little rum and coke, sipping on his little his little hard seltzer. But he's taking notes, and he's He's like a little Bobby the Brain Heenan, but with a lot more studs and more charisma.
I love that. Not many people reference Bobby.
Oh yeah,
that's great. So the inspiration just to wrestling itself, where does it come from?
Oh, I mean, so I grew up in like a wrestling household. Like my father was always a big time wrestling fan. I'm pretty sure my mom's dad was also like that whole side of the family was diehard wrestling fans. Where I grew up was like borderline hillbilly New York.
Okay.
So there was a lot of, you know what I mean, just like that woohoo wrestling, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And they used to always go when they were younger, and they would tell me stories, and you know, it just always was on when I was a kid, and they would take us to like, you know, literally like Monday Night Raw when it was still like original Monday Night Raw, and like when they would just do house shows, and it was like Razor Ramon fighting 14 people in a night. But it was always a thing. We always loved wrestling, and I mean, as I got older, you know, I became that angsty teen, and then there was like ECW, and then right at that time was also the Attitude Era. I was prime age for Attitude Era. 1998, how old was I? I was 14 in 1998.
So the perfect demographic.
Oh my man, they nailed it. Like I'm saying, like Attitude Era, South Park, you know, that whole like era of just like everything raunchy and just like, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, give me all that. And then you know, I actually like dove into it more, and that's when I got into like the Japanese stuff and like started watching like Hayabusa tapes and like FMW tapes and started trading with like friends and stuff like that. But wrestling was always a constant, either at my house or like I always had a close knit family too. So like my mom was very close with her sister, and my cousin was the same age, right around the same age as myself, my little brother. So we were always hanging out. You know what I mean? We grew up together, always, you know, roughhouse and wrestling with each other. But we always had each other to like be fans with each other. You know what I mean? Like, so we would enjoy it together. So that really added to it also. I assume if I was probably an only child or if I didn't have anyone so close, it would probably be different. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, shit, we had wrestling buddies and we had every action figure, you know, imaginable that was a wrestling figure and stuff like that. You know, the first thing we did when we came home from school was set up the ring and have a battle royal. You know what I mean? Like, it just, yeah. And then, you know, that same cousin, like we started backyard wrestling together, and you know, he actually went on to train, and he ended up getting injured. And he ran the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame for a while. That was in New York. So it all was like a weird full circle thing. Like as he was doing that, I actually wasn't wrestling at the time, but I was helping him out there, and I would do like security and stuff like that. So I got to hang out with like Foley and Sabu and stuff. And then, you know, as time went on, I got back into it, and it led to this.
So you're considered a veteran now, I'm sure, but how long have you been doing it now?
I say safely off and on for like 20 years. Like there were gaps in time where like I went off to college, and like I was actually married and divorced and stuff like that. Like I feel like I've lived like 18 lifetimes. Like it's weird to think back on like my timeline of life, because it's like, wait, when did I do that? Was it when I was doing this or this? And I have to have like pinpoints in my life, you know what I mean, in order to like even place certain times. But I say off and on for 20 years, but like heavy for the past 3, 4, 5. You know what I mean? And that's like full deathmatch. I've been doing deathmatch for about 2.5. So like that, like full on deathmatch. I mean, there's been like straight matches peppered in here and there. Like I've been wrestling. I wrestle here and there for a company in New York here in Rochester called EWF, Extreme Wrestling Force. Like I fought Dirty Ron there a couple times, and just a couple random matches there. It's a lot of fun. A good group of people. They work hand in hand with a wrestling school that I trained at for a little while called Ground Zero out in Rochester, which is a very good school. You got like Colin Delaney and Cheech and Cloudy, and a lot of good minds for wrestling. Chris Worthless. So it's yeah, it's I don't know. It just kind of always was like a thing, and then it would just like branch off into other things, but it would always like circle around and become like a different kind of beast. You know what I mean? Like when I got back into wrestling, I got heavy into deathmatch. Like that was right when, really when GCW was like popping off hard again. I really got into it again, and then I started going to shows as like not even just as a worker, like as a fan. I would just start like going to shows, and like I would go to as many shows as I could, because I would just like, I like to fully immerse myself in something that I like genuinely like enjoy. You know what I mean? Like, you know, obviously, if you like music, you go see a band. You know what I mean? Like,
naturally.
Same thing. This is my you know, my rock concert now. You know what I mean? I still go to shows, obviously, but like, this is also very much on par with like a death metal show. You know what I mean? Something like that.
I want to ask you a question. You brought up GCW. I want your honest opinion here. You can shoot it. You can be straight. You can do whatever you need to do with it.
Go for it.
How do you feel when it comes to Matt Cardona in that scene?
Okay. He's very smart. He's a very, very smart guy. He's good at wrestling business, and I honestly enjoyed the whole like storyline with Nick Cage. I was actually there when he beat Nick Cage for the title. It was a madhouse, man. They were throwing garbage and action figures, and like, it was absolute insanity. But I appreciate what he does, honestly. Like, when I did the first Pacific Northwest show, I got to hang out with Jimmy Lloyd for a little while, and he was just telling me he's a smart dude. You know what I mean? Like, he knows what he's doing. He's already been to like the top of the mountain, and he's enjoying his time doing this. And I can appreciate that because he's just being a heel too, and just like having fun with it. You know what I mean? So like, he's basically just like there to have fun and help other people at this point, which everyone like shits on him and this and that, and like, you know what I mean, he talks shit on deathmatch, but obviously he fucking loves deathmatch. He does deathmatch here and there now. You know what I mean? Like, that's my favorite part about it. It's like everyone's just like, oh, he shits on it. It's like, but he also,
but is he shitting on it?
He's not actually. I mean, people get lost in the sauce sometimes, you know.
So I ask about Cardona. Now I'm going to flip the coin a little bit because I know this one rubs a lot of wrestlers in general the wrong way. But let's talk about deathmatch wrestlers with David Arquette.
So that is, I actually just watched that documentary again, maybe like last month. Here's my thing about stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, even this, okay, let's just compare it to this. This is for 100% real. My arm is broken. It all adds to it in a sense. You know what I mean? This was not supposed to happen, but I'll be damned if it didn't add to the storyline. And you know what? The whole thing with Arquette and like Nick Cage and that, everyone looks back on it. Is it not infamous now?
Right.
I mean, did he not literally revolve a whole documentary around it? There's a whole, basically a dark side of the ring about it. You know what I mean? I feel like it almost revamped deathmatch. I feel like it was perfect timing. It was right during like, was it right before, like right at COVID, right around that time?
Yeah, somewhere in the last couple of years here. Yeah.
TV wrestling wasn't doing much. You know, there was no crowds, you know, going to shows. They were doing empty stuff. Deathmatch was all happening outside. There were still shows happening through that whole thing because they were just running shows outside. And I feel like that was impeccable timing. And that actually, it was probably a shitty situation. You know what I mean? He looked like he was terrified. You know what I mean? But like, I feel like it helped heighten it. It helped it gain notoriety, whether it was good or bad. You know what I mean?
That's fair. I mean, I just got to ask your opinion on it, right? Because
yeah, of course.
You are someone that is heavily involved in the scene. And sometimes it can be, I mean, you look at the WWE, for instance, you can bring guys like Bad Bunny, stuff like that. It can be looked on like, what the f are we doing? The only one that I have found successful and I think actually pays their dues is Logan Paul. Other ones that come in, get their little spots, do their little Canadian Destroyer bullshit that seems to go over with the fans because they've seen it on AEW, whatever.
Is he still, does he still have a title, Logan Paul?
No, he lost that a while ago.
Oh, I haven't watched wrestling in a minute. It's, when I'm not doing it, it's hard for me to sit down and like, unless I'm like actually like planning on stuff that I have to do, it's hard for me to actually sit down and be like, oh yeah, there was a whole like show that I was gonna watch, and this like if like I have friends on shows, I'll sit down and watch their match. But it's hard for me to sit down and watch a full show now unless I'm at the show. It's just if I'm home, I want to relax and like catch up on movies and like pet my cat and you know.
I feel you because like, and I don't mean to take away from the conversation here. I've lately fallen into the lull of I don't enjoy mainstream wrestling anymore.
No.
Raw, SmackDown, AEW stuff is kind of taking a back. Like I read about it, I watch about it here and there. My kids are big into it, which is fine.
Yep.
I don't, but for me lately, it's just been like, ugh. I'm finding more fun watching the indie scene. Because you guys are still
there's a freedom
doing it for the right reasons, in a sense, right? You're not there because you're making millions of dollars. You're doing it because it's a passion.
That's very, very much a passion. Yes. There's the passion and like we don't have, literally a producer in our ear being like, wow, you know what I mean? Like, it's two people or, whoever's in the match literally sitting down and planning, you know what I mean? A thought process, hours or days or whatever, you know what I mean? There's no, we don't have like a playbook, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I very much, it's like I said, being an independent wrestler it's that catch-22. It's like, you kind of, I know, people want that fame and want that, notoriety and this and that, but it's also just like, man, I literally get to go and do as I please. Like, I'm literally not tied down to like, a region or this and that. Like, I get to jump all over the place and I get to like see a whole new like scenario here and there, which is fantastic. Like, I love that. I get to like bounce around and, you know what I mean? Like, I'm very much a bridge builder. So if I'm going like from point A to point B, I'm probably going to introduce like 3 people from this spot to like 5 people to that spot. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I like spreading the good word of deathmatch. So
before I go into my next question, you said what you just said there is you like to travel.
Yeah.
Well, 4.5 months, you're coming up to Canada.
Oh boy, for the first time.
So you're not just coming up here to experience our beautiful country, coming up here to beat up our Canadian goods.
Oh my goodness. Not only am I coming up to Canada in winter, which by the way, I hate winter.
End of winter.
But still. I hate the cold and everything with a passion like no other. As I live in Buffalo, New York, I know. Listen. I came here for love. It's worth it. But nonetheless, I hate it. So yes, I'm coming up. It's March, I believe, right?
March 1st. Yep.
Wow, that's right. March 1st. For the Crazy 8, which is also Crazy 8. Yeah, Crazy 8. Dope name. I love that name. Canadian Deathmatch invited me up. We got me. We got my boy that Kyle, also in Total Fucking Chaos. I know Otis Kogar.
I don't know the whole card yet. I'm learning as we go here.
Honestly, I'm genuinely. I have 40,000 names in my brain at all times, and I apologize everybody for forgetting names, but it's going to be a dope day. I'm very excited to be a part of the first Canadian Deathmatch tournament.
I'm excited to be a part of that crowd.
It's not the first Canadian Deathmatch tournament, but you know what I mean.
I'm excited to be a part of that crowd.
Yeah. Oh yes. This is it's going to be one for the books, and I'm very excited about it. I can't wait to hear who my opponent is. Doesn't really matter who my opponent is.
Unless it's that Kyle first round, then you might have some issues.
See, I would hate for that to happen.
It's a possibility, though. It's on the table.
The first time it happened, we had ourselves a little Electric Frankenstein match at the famous Monsters of Deathmatch show that Spooky Dust put on.
Okay.
On IWTV, check it out. And we literally had to fight our way out of a warehouse that we were locked in against each other. And I literally had to electrocute him to win.
Holy shit.
I had jumper cables attached to a barbed wire net. And I literally had to have Will throw the switch to electrocute him to beat him. So I'm saying I hope that doesn't happen because that is a tough motherfucker. And I had to almost murder my friend to win. So, Kyle, I love you. And I really hope I don't have to fight you because it really sucks to fight you because you're really, really tough.
Well, let's just hope that if you do fight each other, it's the finals and the show is just amazing.
Well, in that case,
that gets to end it all.
I didn't even think about it in those terms. Okay. That might actually get very interesting. Kyle, I'll see you in the finals, buddy. Amazing. Good point.
You keep alluding to your area of where you live, and a name keeps coming to my mind. It's not a death match, but it is a wrestler that is famous in your area.
Okay.
Brody Lee.
Yes. Yeah, he's a Rochester native, actually. He is, the heart and soul of wrestling in this area. The school I mentioned earlier, Ground Zero, he is a mural on the wall, you know what I mean? Like, he is held in very high regards amongst people, not just here, but like in wrestling.
Yeah,
totally. Giant man, but like giant heart, you know what I mean? One of those things, just good family man, and like took care of his people. And I never got a chance to meet him, unfortunately. I literally moved up here like directly after. And, yeah, I know. And not even that though, but like I came to a good community that was already like set in place, you know what I mean? Like When you're a deathmatcher in New York, you kind of get not really looked down on, but there's definitely like a stigma to it because I mean it's very much illegal here. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like coming to an area where I mean it doesn't happen at all. You know what I mean? You're like, oh hey everybody, this is what I do. And like,
you don't do that here though.
Where's your suplexes? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, well, I also have those, but it usually involves into a pane of glass. But no, it's been awesome here. Like, I mean, literally, if I didn't come here, my life would be vastly different. I literally wouldn't be living here if I never came here because it's popped off many things in motion.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
Word.
Yeah.
Before we started recording this episode, me and you were chatting. You had said you'd gone to school for special effects with Mr. Tom Savini.
I did.
I do want to hear about this. So let's touch on this a bit with me. And then I got one more thing I want to throw at you on this subject.
Yeah, 100%. So this is actually a crazy time in my life. I didn't go to college till I was 28 years old. 2009 is when I went to college. So I'm originally from a town called Amsterdam, New York, which is down by Albany. And I mean, literally middle of nowhere, but I was always a diehard horror fan growing up. You know what I mean? Big special effects guy. Like my father was a giant, like a Universal monster kid growing up. So I got introduced to it real young. It was the only thing I ever wanted to do, like schooling wise. And I said, you know what, honestly, I'm going to go for it. So they say it's in Pittsburgh, and it's literally a town called Monessen, Pennsylvania, which is like 20 minutes outside of Pittsburgh. It is also the third most abandoned town in the country. Literally every third house is abandoned. Also, directly behind the school that I went to, there's a giant coal factory. That coal factory is where they filmed the finale of RoboCop.
Interesting tidbit.
Oh, and it literally like rains down ash and just like covers everything in like coal ash, like in the surrounding area. It's very Silent Hill like. It's always like very eerie and like there's always a flame burning, and it's crazy. And so it's just in the middle of this abandoned like town in Pennsylvania where like the slumlord buys up all this like property and like overcharges kids for dorms, and you get it's a lot better now. But when I went there, like a lot of the materials that they were using were already outdated at that point. Like instead of like silicone, they were just getting into like silicone prosthetics as opposed to like foam latex and stuff like that. I mean, I absolutely loved every second of it. Like I had the time of my life. That was really my first time like leaving my hometown to like do anything on my own. So I mean, like I still have friends that I talk to. Like I just did a show in Houston, Texas in September, one of the two, and a buddy of mine from college who I haven't seen in 15 years came down to see his first death match, and it was me. Like his very first match of the night was me, and he got to see his very first death match. We hadn't seen each other in 15 years, like, and that was my boy at college. Like I literally have his name tattooed on my ass. Like,
nice.
Yeah. And so I mean, it was crazy. Like we all. When we graduated special effects school, we all had like a big group hug because through the whole time we said it was like we were in Vietnam. Like we were just fending for ourselves, just like a bunch of starving artists, like eating old like hamburgers. Like anyone who had like a food service job would just constantly like be like taking food every night to just like feed everybody. And we were just like constantly staying up all night and like sculpting monsters and like drinking way too much beer.
I don't mean to cut you off. In a sense, it prepared you for the indie scene of wrestling.
I mean, to an extent, yeah. Like, because directly after that, too, I literally packed up everything and drove cross country right to California. But it was basically a fend for yourself type of thing. Like, it was a fun time and I learned a lot, but it also taught me very much how to survive on my own, on the absolute bare minimum, which always comes in handy when you're on the road and, like a tire falls off on the highway and you're like stuck in a podunk town for 2 days with like $40. So really it's, you learn to be frugal and, try not to go insane and drink cheap beer.
Fair.
Yeah.
My next question, again, I still have another question, but now again, did you work directly hands-on with Tom Or is he just more of a person that kind of directs where you go and just go yourself?
I think I saw him maybe 3 times total. He literally is just like the face of the school. And then when he would come, he would like try to impress all the new girls by doing like 1-arm push-up and cracking his whip and whipping out his sex machine gadget. And like it was very disheartening to meet him. I'm not gonna lie to you at all. That was one of those never meet your idols type of things. It was just it wasn't necessarily like he was like a jerk or anything, but there was definitely like I don't know, a skis, if you will. And I mean, I love everything he's ever fucking put his hands on, you know what I mean? But like, and it was very weird. Like, there was clearly, when someone is famous, they probably know that they're famous like that. You know what I mean? I'm sure it does a thing to a person. So,
100%.
It is what it is.
Coming from your school, because again, we talked about this a little bit before. Someone I idolize in the horror industry, Jason Baker. Yeah. Who ultimately created or helped create, I should really put that in perspective like that, because I did interview Kyle Scarborough, who also helped create The Fiend. What is your take on that? Like knowing somebody from your school sculpted that mask. I love it. So he was a semester ahead of me actually in school, and he was always a very cool dude. Like he was very helpful. I was always very inquisitive at school, and I would ask a lot of questions because going into that, I went into it very blindly. Like I had no prior experience. I was just a fan. So he was just like on the verge of like his final semesters when he really got like hooked up with Tom, and I couldn't be happy for the dude. Like he's set forever. Like he has got to. I know he got to do The Fiend, and like they did all of Triple H's masks and like shoulder pads and like all of that stuff. Yeah, so like whenever there's that crossover of wrestling and like special effects or wrestling and horror or wrestling, especially people that I know, it's like I'm always gonna root for people that I know. You know what I mean? Like as long as you're not like a piece of crap, like I wish you the best. Like keep doing what you're doing because the dude's always had skills and it shows. Like he's got that work ethic too. That's what's up. Like he does not stop. I know he's always doing something. I've been trying to get him on the show for almost 2 years now, so I know the work ethic is there. He's much busier than I am. But I'm glad that it went away for him. You know what I mean? In a way for him. It couldn't happen to a cooler dude. You know what I mean? Like he was always, yeah. I was able to meet him this past July in Toronto for Money in the Bank. He came over. We chatted for a few minutes. He's obviously busy. Super nice guy. All right. Now that we're talking professional wrestling, I want to touch on a subject that a lot of people don't want to touch on, but I feel like you're the perfect person to ask about this. Is Chris Benoit Hall of Fame worthy if you can separate man from the artist? Yes. If it's just Chris Benoit wrestler, 100%. 100%. That speaks for itself. His work as a wrestler was impeccable. I mean, he did some insane shit. You know what I mean? There's some of the most memorable things in wrestling ever that happened with Chris Benoit. First thing that pops into my head, it's a shitty one, when he broke Sabu's neck. But I mean, as he wears a Sabu shirt earlier in the day, and that was immediately popped into my brain. So, but I mean, yeah, that was always the when I was younger, like a teenager, ECW didn't really play on a regular basis. It would be like scattered at like 3 a.m. maybe once a month here and there. And that would start it off always. They'd play the first like commercial for one of their tapes, and it would always be the night Chris Benoit broke Sabu's neck. And I mean, that's always going to be, but yes, back to the question. Sorry, I get sidetracked a lot. I do think Chris Benoit as a wrestler should be Hall of Fame material. Yes. As a human being, probably not. Now, let me ask you about the human being. Do you have any conspiracy theories around this? I just learned this past weekend when I was on the road about the Kevin Sullivan one. Okay. How are you familiar? I have my own on that, but let's hear what you have to say about it. So I literally have no thought process on it whatsoever. I'm just now like getting like bits and pieces of, you know what I mean? And here's the thing, I love a conspiracy theory. Like I don't ever like dive into it, you know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna like wear a tinfoil hat or anything, but like I just as much as I enjoy learning about Bigfoot, you know what I mean? Like let's fucking go. But like I mean,
fuck, if there's evidence, you know what I mean? There's fucking evidence. But like, I had no idea that was even a thing until like last weekend.
It really drives me nuts because Kevin Sullivan recently, before he had passed, said, I have some major shit on the Benoit story. And then he died. Heard. And then he fucking died. And nobody knows now. And it's stupid. And I hate it.
Now, here's the thing, though. Kevin Sullivan, the consummate worker, did he say that knowing full well he was on his way out? He'd be like, got you fuckers.
He might have. My theory is, and I'll tell you my theory to this.
Yes.
Because I don't give a fuck if you don't like it. Fast forward about 3 minutes.
Okay.
Fast forward about 3 minutes if you don't want to hear what I have to say. My theory on this is Chris Benoit went into. He probably was somebody who was enraged by whatever he was on. 100% CTE, whatever you want to call it, sure. And I think Nancy was preparing to leave him and she was seeing Kevin behind his back. And I think that weekend, that fateful weekend, unfortunately, that Chris was supposed to be a show in Philadelphia for Night of Champions, I think it was called at the time. And Kevin knew that. And he went over there. And Chris caught wind of that. And, you know, Kevin left. There was probably an altercation of some kind. After Kevin left, Chris unalived Nancy and Daniel. And then Kevin probably came back thinking, oh, he's probably gone now to the show because he's not going to miss a show. He's a workhorse. And then he came and seen that. And I think Kevin murdered Chris.
Oh, so literally a murder.
Yeah, I think there was.
Oh, this is all a new one to me. Okay. I'm going to have to start making like that scene in It's Always Sunny with Charlie in the mailroom. With all the red things. I'm going to have to make one of those things. This is yeah, so the final verdict was that it was a murder-suicide, right?
Killed it was a double murder-suicide is the final.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that whole thing was mishandled completely anyways, but.
Isn't it usually?
Speaking of mishandled things, you and I had a conversation over the last couple days.
Mishandled?
You and I had a conversation, I think, yesterday and today. There's a company up here in Canada called Destiny Wrestling who allowed Mr. Marty Scurll to come and wrestle and not tell anybody. How do you feel about when promotions do shady shit like that with their talent?
So I was actually in a similar situation one time where I was in a locker room, or I was, going back, and G-Raver was in the locker room. Are you familiar with G-Raver?
I am not.
He was a former deathmatch wrestler who did some very not nice things to someone who is very well liked in the wrestling community, and tried to act like nothing was like an issue, like no one was going to find out about it. And then this company, without telling anyone, decided to also bring him in just like that. And I mean, if I was in that locker room, I wouldn't be happy. Like that's one of those things where it's like, that could be a deal breaker for somebody. You know what I mean? If somebody was in that locker room and then you walk in and be like, well, fuck, if I knew this was going to happen, I wouldn't even fucking come. You know what I mean?
Right. To me, it's crazy given the fact that in the last 4 years alone right now, we have a lot of these movements coming forward. The world of professional wrestling, acting, whatever. There's no place for sexual predatory people anywhere. But in professional wrestling, it's become more, and I don't want to use the term like this, but mainstream. We just seen arguably the biggest one in Vince McMahon.
Right? I would say, 100% the biggest one, yeah. And it was never surprising, the things that were, constantly coming out about it, but it's just like the extent, I think. You know what I mean? Just like the amount of influence somebody can have on other people like that just because of what the fuck ever, Yeah, but exactly. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm not, it's, I don't get it. It's just not that hard to not be a piece of shit.
You would think so, right? But
yeah, I mean, I really have to try really hard to try to be a piece of crap sometimes. And even then, I'm probably smiling on accident. You know what I mean?
I've never been a billionaire. You've never been a billionaire.
Not that I know of.
Right. So maybe if once you hit billionaire status, you just become the biggest piece of shit in the world. I don't know.
I think, is that maybe you have to be a piece of shit to be a billionaire?
Maybe.
Like you have to like cross that threshold and be like, all right.
Yeah, you got to set your morals aside and just kind of do shitty things.
You finally hit a plateau, and there's like, here's $1 billion. You did it.
So, like, let's say, just for all intents of the conversation, let's say Marty Scrolls shows up at one of your deathmatch promotions. He wants to do it. How many guys do you think are going to shoot on him and Jaws beat the shit out of him?
At least one. And then I'm sure once one person does it, other people will be like, it'll finally click as to what's happening. To be honestly, knock on wood, I've been very, very, very lucky that there hasn't been any like real, trash bags in the locker room that I've been into. I'm a fortunate dude. Like it's but it's also
you broke your hand.
This is nothing, okay? I said it the other day. I have 203 other bones that are perfectly fine, and I can still wiggle my fingers and fucking flip motherfuckers off, so we're good.
205 if you're watching Gossip Girl, right?
Yeah, exactly. However many Sarah Connor said, there's 208 bones in the human body. It's like, I think that's 4 too many or something. She's got them extra bones, whatever. But no, I think a lot of it, like you were saying, has to do with like, people being put on fucking notice. Like in this day and age, like smarten the fuck up. Just like, seriously, it's really hard to like, you have to know that if you're a piece of shit, you have to know you're a piece of shit at least a little bit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And if you know you're a piece of shit at least a little bit, take the steps you need to take to fucking get whatever help you need. You know what I mean? Whether it's whatever, like I'd like to think that people are able to change to a certain extent, you know what I mean? So, like, I would give somebody the benefit of the doubt if they're actually seeking active help and, like, taking steps to, like, become a better person. Sure, 100%. I'm all for it, you know what I mean? I'm not going to shit on somebody for trying to be better, but at the same time, if you're not, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean? It's just like a self-repeating fucking thing, Oh, hey, I'm back. Oh, nope, I'm canceled again. Oh, hey, I'm back. Oh, nope, I'm canceled again. Like, what's the fucking point?
I mean, you said you were a TV watcher, so I'm sure you remember the show That 70s Show.
Oh yeah.
And we're not going to go in. I don't want to talk about the entire thing, but that guy alone set a precedent that should have woken up a lot of people.
Yep.
But it didn't. I'm not mentioning names. You know who I'm talking about. Anybody watching knows what I'm talking about.
Man,
that should have set the precedent that, hey guys, we need to smarten the fuck up.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. When I found out about that, I was distraught because for a moment that was like my jam. You know what I mean? That was like I've been laid up a few times from injuries here and there, from not even wrestling stuff, just like, life. And like that was like a go-to show that I watched, that and like Scrubs, you know what I mean? Like whatever was on Comedy Central that would just play for like 4 hours, you know what I mean? So
you could just lay there and be like,
exactly. Yeah. You could become a vegetable for 4 hours and just watch the entirety of a series in like 2 weeks. And, I mean, seriously, like, that's the thing. If one can go down, they can all go down. And if that's the case and it cleans the slate, so be it. You know what I mean? Fresh start. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I don't understand why, like, things have to be so protected. It's like, oh, you're going to ruin this, this, and this. Let it fucking be ruined. If that's the case, then it should be ruined. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why I enjoy the wrestling community, going back to what you said before. Like, they, you know what I mean? They help hold people accountable. And like, once, you know what I mean, a person is done, they're usually done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's, I can appreciate that. Like,
I mean, you got to hold things accountable. If not, then the world just revolves. And
what are we doing here? Exactly. Like, we might as well just like run around and just start stabbing each other, which is,
I mean, that's what you do for fun, but
I'm okay with it. But like, you know what I mean? Like the general consensus is probably not stabby. You know what I mean?
I mean, and I don't really typically go in this route of the show when I do things, but like when it comes to people messing with people of age between, I mean, whatever, under 18, we'll say that.
Yep.
If I ever see you, I have no hesitation. It's on. I'm just going to knock you out. Like, I'm not going to go farther than that because I ain't trying to go away. Unless you touch my kids, then I'm going to be smiling my way through everything.
Yeah, that's not even a question. I don't have kids for a reason because I think I would probably murder half the world at this point. Like, I give you all the credit in the world having kids. The the stress that I would be under would probably kill me. It would probably kill me. I would literally be a mess 24/7, especially if I had a daughter. I couldn't even imagine that amount of, just because I know full well how the world works, and it sucks.
Before I get into the next few segments here, my partner understood this, and it took a little bit of explaining for her to understand this. When my daughter was still needing to be in diapers and stuff, I told her I'll never change her in public.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't quite understand why. And then I explained, if my daughter's having an off day and I'm going to change her diaper and she's screaming and crying, it doesn't look good on me. When I'm just trying to change, it's an innocent act. But you walk into that change room, what's your immediate thought process?
Yeah.
It's not, it's a dad changing his daughter. Unfortunately, that's not the world we live in. You're thinking something fucked up.
Yeah. Side note of that, I've actually never walked into a bathroom and seen anyone ever changing a child. Is that weird?
No, it just means that mothers do their jobs and you don't notice.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I don't mean that in a sexist way either.
No, I
make it that way.
Yeah. I know.
But
I
it's
just
tough.
thought about that. I was like, wait, it's like you never see a neighbor bringing in their groceries.
It's also like you've never seen a Chinese buffet commercial.
But everyone's always there. It's for the little dessert cakes. That's why.
My next question for you: scariest moment that you've dealt with in deathmatch, like where you thought, "Oh fuck, it's over."
For me personally, honestly, again, man, I'm very lucky. This is probably the worst I've had it, to be perfectly honest. And even then,
that was a fluke. I've seen the footage.
Even then, like I had, I finished the match. Like the ref was like, "You good?" I was like, I can be limited. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to be doing flips here, but like it wasn't as bad as I thought it was initially. Obviously, I'm still jacked up now, but this I'm very lucky. Like all superficial flesh wounds, you know what I mean? Like I should definitely have had many stitches 10 times over, but I don't get stitches or nothing. Like I have a lot of scars and this and that, but I've seen other people get wrecked real bad. I was there when J.J. Allen broke his back at XPW when he jumped off the balcony. That was absolutely horrifying because he was like, I can't move. And when J.J. Allen is like, I'm fucked, that's usually like, you know what I mean? Because that man is made out of goddamn steel. I did WrestleMania weekend a couple years back for Crimson Crown in California, and Sage Sin fought Kikyo. And Kikyo took a light tube and it bounced off. I think it was off her leg and bounced back, or off the ground and bounced back. And she got a slice in her arm that was probably the deepest thing I've ever seen. And luckily, I just happened to have tape in my back pocket, and I was just like, tape it up. It was absolutely disgusting though. And it was so deep that it didn't bleed for like a good 30 seconds. You know what I mean? Like one of those. Like it was just like, oh, hey, there's every layer of everything that you have inside of you.
Yeah, is that a 10?
Yeah. Let's see what else. Man, I mean, one time I flew off of a 2-story building for POR. That was pretty intense, but it was awesome. I came out, I lost the match, but I came out with, nothing out of place, so that was nice. Oh shit, North Korean assassin being set on fire at X Brand Wrestling. Have you seen that clip?
No, but that sounds horrifying.
So it's North Korean assassin versus Madman Pondo versus Shadow WX, and Shadow WX spits fire at North Korean assassin, and North Korean assassin, being a North Korean assassin, was wearing just the plain North Korea garb of the tan, basically 2-piece, work suit. And that thing went up faster than anything I've ever seen go up in history. And that man's skin was melted off. I was his first match back in Houston, Texas. And I don't know how he even made it there, because it looked fake. That's how disgusting it looked. Like it looked like someone was literally just like put glue on his back and was just, like when you put glue on your hands in school and you peel it off. Yep. That's what it looked like, but like very red underneath. Yeah. So that was probably the most disgusting thing I've ever actually experienced in wrestling or deathmatch wrestling. Like I said, I myself have been very lucky. Like, this is the first thing I've ever, had really happen to me. And, he'll get his very soon. So I'm not too worried about this. This is just letting me reflect and build up all this rage and, study the tapes, if you will.
I like that.
Thanks, man.
All right. I'm going to ask some rapid fire questions here.
Go.
I don't want you to think. I just want you to answer.
Okay.
Favorite all-time moment in professional wrestling?
Hell in a Cell, Mankind.
Okay. Favorite wrestler of all time?
It's got to be Foley.
Favorite match you've had of all time?
Oh, shit. Probably right off the top, I had me versus Anthrax, X brand.
Okay. Is hot dog a sandwich?
Yes.
Okay. The last thing you remember before being hit in the head with light tubes that you set a world record with?
Oh, shit. I don't think I had a thought. I just remember how loud it was, and it felt like someone poured sand on my back. There was that much broken glass on me. I just remember like lumping over Will, and I'm glad I was able to hold it up because it was very heavy. It felt like someone like literally hit me with like a tree trunk or something. It was insane. It took two people to hand it to Kyle, and then it took Kyle one good swing to throw at me.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
If WWE, AEW, New Japan came hollering at you tomorrow morning, you can still do your style for these three companies. Let's keep that in mind. They all offer you $10 million. Which company are you going to and why?
Probably New Japan, just because I've always wanted to go to Japan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite food?
Pizza.
Favorite thing you live off on the road?
Oh, energy drinks. Monster, Pink.
Fair enough. All right, I'm going to stop that right there. But I need to know a little bit, before we wrap this up, tell us a little bit more about the world record setting light tubes. Where does this idea even start that you're like, you know what, beat me in the head with this many?
So initially it was actually 55, but under the weight of its own pressure, two of them broke. So that's the only reason we did 53. I love going bigger and bigger, and they were like, how many do you want in a bundle? I said, how many can you put in a bundle? I said, put as many as you possibly can. And that's what they did. They went with 55 as like a nice round number. And it literally, like as they were doing it, like two of them cracked under the pressure of its own weight. So I went to 53, which is still, as far as I know, at least 20 more than the next biggest one that's ever been used.
That's crazy.
Yes. It had to have weighed 60 pounds, 50 pounds. Like it definitely like, you know what I mean? Like it took the air out of me for a half a second when I got hit with it. If Will got hit with it, it might have killed him. But it was, especially because it was where it happened, it was literally an abandoned warehouse. So the echo of that, it sounded like a 5-car pileup. It just rang through that entire building. And there was maybe 5 or 6 people there, you know what I mean? There was like a camera person and the ref and me and Will and Kyle and me. I think there might have been a light person. I don't even know. But it was one of the most intense. Oh, that's probably up there with one of my favorite matches too. Sorry, Kyle. That was definitely one of the most fun experiences I've had. We got to have a lot of fun. I remember the card was actually slightly different going into that. Kyle and I were both in a deathmatch tournament the day before that match took place. So we were already tore the hell up. I went 2 rounds. Kyle went 1 round. And then we went into that not even knowing we were facing each other. So that was all just boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
All right. Listen, I've kept you for almost an hour now, and I appreciate this. And we're going to have you back on because there's more to dive into. But I wanted to introduce you to the audience that I have, and hopefully to the audience you have. Oh, yeah. That being said, please plug anything you need to plug now, merch, whatever you need to plug, shout out whoever you need to shout out. Take it away.
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you for having me. Sorry it took me a few days to get on track here, but this little guy tends to put a damper on things. As of right now, I am down for the count until January 17th, where I will be in Portland, Oregon for Pacific Northwest. That's show number 2, called Death in the West. It's actually a deathmatch tournament. I am not in the tournament, but I am fighting Dmitry Alexandrov in a non-tournament match. And that is my first match back, and that is going to be I can only guarantee absolute insanity. Dmitry is a monster in the ring. I know he carries a bat covered in open scissors. I've been hit with a scissor bat twice in my career. Oh, balloons. I just had balloons floating.
I have no idea. Something like your end? I don't know.
Hey, scissor bat. That was amazing. And then after that, unless I get booked in between, I'm heading my way up to Canada for the Crazy 8 for Canadian Deathmatch, where I have a as of yet to be named opponent for the tournament for the area, which I'm very excited about because that is my first time up in Canada.
Make sure you eat poutine while you're here.
What's that?
Make sure you eat a poutine while you're here.
So fun fact, I'm a vegan. So unless I find some vegan poutine, I will definitely do that.
It's fries and gravy and cheese.
Jesus, milk.
I'll figure this out.
You're good. You're good. Listen, I'm on the road a lot. I've learned to where the good food places are. When I'm actually looking for good food, fun fact, I don't like to eat before matches because I'm afraid I'm going to shit my pants in the ring. Anyway, moving on to merch. You can get all my merch at Deathmatch Worldwide. I have there's a store for hardcore, which is me. There's also a Total Fucking Chaos store. There's also a Zach Kyle store. So really, you can go to Deathmatch Worldwide and get all of your Total Fucking Chaos needs amongst Kyle and I. And for Canadian Deathmatch, there's also the exclusive hardcore shirt. Just for the show, just for the company. They are kind enough to lend me a hand. Had to do it. But we're splitting the proceeds, so some of it can go to the show and, just get crazy fuckery and, just make the show a little bit better because I'm all about putting back into the scene itself. And they're kind enough to send some money my way, which is also nice because I like, food and weed. And other than that, yeah, I mean, when I'm on the road, I like to have merch. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But we can take pictures, say hi, come say what's up. Tell me what the hell, you're enjoying, what you're not enjoying about the show. I'm usually pretty down to earth unless I'm like eating out and, need medical attention, which is very rare. But every now and again, I do need to get patched up. But other than that, yeah, come say hi, come enjoy the show, come see fucking crazy people do crazy things that they love to do. Come to Canadian Deathmatch, come see Crazy 8. Listen to this guy right here on this dope podcast, which I will be on again.
Oh, you will be.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I'm very happy to be on this tonight. This was a nice little break from the monotony of sitting around and doing a lot of nothing besides working out my one arm. That
can be taken a lot of different ways.
Listen, take it as you see fit. It is your show, pal.
Ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, I'd like to thank Canadian Deathmatch for introducing me to hardcore and setting up this wonderful interview. We are going to have hardcore back at another day, maybe even live when I'm down in Hamilton, where the show Canadian Deathmatch will take place, the Crazy 8 tournament, which he'll be competing in. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I am Shadow. This is my guest, Hardcore. Thank you again, Hardcore, for your time. I would like to bid you adieu. And I just remember, guys, support your indie friends, support your independent promotions, and just care about one another.
Yeah.
And with that being said, I am Shadow. Hardcore, I am out.
Like these emotes.